If you clicked on this video, you're probably kind of annoyed by your clutter or the never-ending mental to-do list. It really sucks to feel like you're constantly trying to keep up with housework and kids' appointments and meal plans, but always feel like you're behind. When I was pregnant with my second baby, and this was after years of infertility, I just had a flip switch moment. I don't know if it was nesting or what, but I started looking around my home and getting so annoyed at all the stuff. Like clothes with tags still on, or the 10 water bottles in the back of my kitchen cupboards that I hadn't touched in years. So I literally grabbed a bin bag and I started decluttering. So there are a few things that level up in your life when you start decluttering. And the first one is being more aware of the true cost of stuff. There's this statistic I found really interesting that women in the UK own between 24 and 35 pairs of shoes, and men own on average about 19 pairs of shoes. And back when I first started decluttering, I definitely had a lot more shoes. I'm not sure if I actually counted exactly how many. I kind of took everything out, sort your life out style on that TV show. Just kind of take everything out on the floor on a clear surface so I can see exactly how many things I have in each category. And when I did that, I remember taking everything out on my living room floor and just being surprised by how many shoes I had, how many house slippers I had, when in reality I either didn't really wear house slippers a lot, or I had one pair that I always gravitated towards. And it's just looking at the whole category and seeing how many things you have in that category, like how many shoes, it's just eye-opening. So that was when I decluttered a lot of them. And I was just thinking, let me crunch up the numbers real quick. So if you have 35 pairs of shoes, and let's say on average they cost about £50 each, I was kind of looking online for the average. It might be more or less depending on which shop that shoe came from, obviously, but in total that would be £1,750. And I think it's not just the money, because for me, just thinking about having 35 pairs of shoes and where I would actually store them in my house, I don't think I would have anywhere to store them unless I stored a lot of them away, like thrown away in my loft or thrown away in my cupboards. But that would mean my understairs closet would literally just be a pile of shoes. And I was thinking, okay, that's nearly £2,000 for all of those shoes. But let me get off my high horse and just look at my own shoes as well, because I know for some of them I actually paid more than that average. So I have a total of 7 pairs of shoes, and some of them are actually stored away because they're off season. I have one pair of Adidas Specials, those were £90. I have one pair of Adidas Sambas, those were £95. And even just looking at the numbers, I was thinking this is going to add up to quite a lot. One pair of Birkenstocks that I bought last year for £125. And those are kind of the only sandal that I have and wear a lot. And I have one kind of chunkier trainer. It's a New Balance one that I really love. It's got leopard print on it, and it was £110. Then I've got a pair of New Balance running shoes. Those were £70. So those are the 5 pairs that I actually have out in my closet under the stairs. Those are the shoes that I wear on repeat right now. I have one pair of boots that were £50 that are stored away in storage because I'm not really wearing them during spring and summer. And then I have a pair of dressy shoes, like high heels, that I almost never wear. It's only if I have like a wedding or some sort of occasion like that. And I think those were £30. Those I've had for years and years. So in total for my 7 pairs of shoes, I have paid £570. And this is for a collection that for me, it covers all of my needs. Like I have a few varieties of trainers that I can wear depending on the outfit, like a slightly darker colored brown, a kind of white pair of slim trainers, a chunkier trainer, running shoes, the sandals. And so I feel like those shoes are pretty much everything I need. And I was kind of nervous to add up my numbers because I thought it might be a lot more, but actually I feel like it's not too bad. And when I bought new shoes, I tried to not invest. I don't feel like shoes are an investment or clothes are an investment, but just kind of opting for things that are more like a bit higher quality so that hopefully they will last me a lot longer. Because since I only have these like 5 pairs of shoes on repeat right now, I wear them a lot. Like I do get my cost per wear down to like pennies. So sometimes having less items in a category means even if you pay a bit more for one item in that category, like one pair of shoes, your overall total will still be much lower. And you also have fewer items that you have to take care of, that you have to store, that you have to clean. It's just a bit freeing in my opinion. Decluttering also creates space. One thing I've been doing lately is we've been going through toys. So we decluttered some of the older toys. My kids are, they're constantly growing, obviously. And so every once in a while we do look at the toys that they have outgrown, or I just noticed they don't play with as much. Like for example, they had quite a lot of Lego Duplo. I have a 3.5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I noticed they tend to play a bit less with Duplo now and play just a bit more with regular Legos that my oldest son has. And so we started decluttering some of the old Duplo because there's no point in keeping it if they're not actually playing with it. We looked through any like broken toys. We had some garden toys where we realized like half of the pieces in this, garden game are missing, and so it's pretty much unplayable at this point. So it's those kinds of things that we just get rid of. It creates space, and it creates space for them to actually play with the toys that they do enjoy playing with, rather than having them piled in a stash of broken toys or clutter that just doesn't really add any value to their kind of play. Decluttering will also reduce massively your need for storage. I've been going through my kitchen, and I actually decluttered a few more travel mugs that we had. We decluttered a few more mugs. I went through the medicine basket that we have in there, and I realized like there were quite a few medicines that were now expired, and that's a good thing to kind of go through once in a while, because for one, it's unsafe to use those by accident, and also there's no point in keeping them, right? So that's one category that I go through once in a while. I got rid of some old containers that we weren't using. So at the very top of my kitchen, I have this cupboard where I keep things that are like overflow or things that we're not using right now, and that I keep thinking maybe I will use it in the future. We had some kids plates, like plastic plates that we hadn't used in years. We kind of swapped to either like regular plates for my oldest son, and then also we have some of those bamboo plates for them. So those are the ones we use on a regular basis. And then I kept the plastic ones thinking, if we have guests over, for some reason we might want to use these. And actually we didn't end up using those, because I noticed when we did have our kids' birthday parties at home, we actually bought a pack of disposable plates because, we just needed more than that. And so I went through that cupboard, I got rid of quite a lot of things, and it's so much more streamlined in there now. I actually have space in there. And when I notice my kitchen is starting to feel a bit crammed, that's when I know it's time for me to do a declutter. And also you will notice that you need less furniture, which means it's gonna save you money, because furniture can cost quite a lot depending on where you buy it from. For example, I've been decluttering my kids' sticker books. They had quite a lot of old ones. It's those kinds of things that they get gifted or they buy from certain places, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a nice activity for them to do. But I noticed once they kind of use most of the stickers in there, there's no real point in keeping it, because they don't really look through it anymore. They don't play with the stickers anymore, obviously, because they're already pretty much used. And so sometimes I would just keep those items for ages and ages. And so this weekend I just felt like I needed a cleanse, so we went through those and got rid of quite a lot. And I was actually thinking, before I decluttered my kitchen and the kids' artwork and crafts, we actually had some dried up Play-Doh that I had to throw away, things like that. And before we did this, I was actually thinking to myself, in the kitchen where we have our, there's a little nook at the window, and I was thinking, there's quite a lot of arts and crafts things that have accumulated that we don't really have a space to put in. Should we maybe buy a bench or make some sort of an IKEA, something with baskets in it to store all of the kids' arts and crafts? I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad idea, but once I decluttered a bit, I realized actually we don't really need it now, because I've created some space in the baskets here, I've created some space in the kitchen cupboards, and so I have some space to put all of that stuff in now. So decluttering will actually reduce the amount of furniture that you need, and that means you also have more floor space. And I think especially in British houses, because they are quite small, and I'm not complaining about the size of my house because I feel like it's perfect for us, but the more pieces of furniture that you put in there, just kind of the more crammed it's going to feel. Once you start decluttering, I also feel like you have less guilt. I know when I first started, I had so much guilt over, for one, buying all of the items that I was about to declutter, and also just guilt over getting rid of them, because maybe you just feel like you're being mean if you're decluttering your kids' stuff. But I realized once in a while we just have to go through board games and puzzles and all of these items and get rid of some, because they gradually, just get more, they get gifted more, or they use their pocket money to buy more. So inevitably we will just have more stuff in our homes, and we regularly go through them. And I know a lot of people struggle decluttering with their kids, and I'll be honest, sometimes I do it with my kids, sometimes I do it without, and it really depends on the age. So for example, my 8-year-old, he actually gets it. And I think it's not like he's always happy to declutter, and that's fine. You know, they don't have to get rid of anything that they love playing with. They don't have to be forced into decluttering. That's not something I encourage at all. But in time, as we practice, he's actually gotten so much better. And for example, he will go through his artwork and his paperwork, and he is ruthless. He will take out a stash of papers that he no longer needs. And sometimes I'm actually surprised at how much he's getting rid of. But yeah, I think at this age, they kind of get it a bit more. But when it comes to my 3-year-old, I cannot declutter with her. I love her, but at this age, I feel like they just don't really understand. So if they're a bit younger, I will just do the decluttering myself, ideally when they're not around. And that's because if I show my toddler any toy, she will say it's the best toy ever, it's her favorite, even though you probably know that they're gonna play with it for like 5 minutes and it will be done. And it will just stay in that basket for the next 6 months. And if there are any toys I'm not sure of, and I think, you know, maybe she will ask for this back, then I will put them in a box or just in a place in my loft, for example, in kind of a toy rotation system. And I just put it in there, maybe to decide later and see, you know, in 2-3 months, is she still asking for that toy? And if she does, then I can always just go back and bring it. But if she doesn't, it can just easily go. You will also have fewer tabs open when you declutter. I realized when I was decluttering in my hallway that all of those letters and doctor's appointments and birthday invites and all of these things that pile up in there are a lot of delayed decisions that accumulate there, and that can feel stressful. And I noticed when I come home, and that's like the first thing I see when you walk through the door, or when I'm just like walking around the house, I come downstairs and I see that pile of papers, it just stresses me out because I know I have to tackle it at some point. So when I declutter that area, it just makes me feel so good. And sometimes I feel like the things I need to do, like to act on based on those papers, like make an appointment or call the doctor or whatever it might be, it feels like such a big task, when actually it usually takes me like a couple minutes and I'm done. I actually have in there my paper to book my cervical screening, so actually this is a good reminder that I should probably do that today. And if you have something you've been putting off, maybe this is your sign to go ahead and do it and just tick it off your mental to-do list, because it will feel so much better. There's also the visual annoyance that will kind of disappear as you declutter, because as we look around our home, if there are so many things around us, it can feel like a lot of unfinished tasks to our brain. And so that can just give you that uneasy feeling. It can be really hard to relax at the end of the day when you have a space that's full of clutter. And I know sometimes you declutter and you look around you and you think, you know, I've gotten rid of so much, but for some reason it still feels off. It still feels like too much. It still feels like I need to get rid of more. And it might be that it's not just the stuff in your cupboards, it might be the visual clutter as well. So like maybe there's extra decor that you don't really like, or just a lot of things on walls. Or obviously nothing wrong with having pictures on walls. It's really nice to decorate it and make it feel cozy to you. It's just about kind of finding that balance, and we all have a different threshold for this. For me, I know I'm quite minimal, so I don't like a lot of things out. For some people, they might like a bit more. And obviously there's no right or wrong here. It's just about kind of finding that balance that works for you. There's also less to clean, and honestly it's so much quicker to clean your house when you have less stuff. And this is something I didn't realize for the longest time. I loved to have a dresser full of like little decor bits, and once I decluttered and I just kept some decor items but very minimal, I realized that actually just going through my house and dusting takes minutes. It doesn't take me hours, and it's just so much better because having a clear surface means there's going to be less dust, and it's just going to be so much quicker to deep clean as well. There's also the identity shift that kind of happens when you're decluttering. I think you just become more clear-headed when you start to kind of take control of your house and get rid of the items that you just know are just sitting there but you're not really using, and you kind of keep thinking and, you know, keeping them in that maybe pile, but you just know you're not going to get any use out of. When you start tackling that, I feel like there's this shift that kind of happens, or at least that was in my case. And if I say I'm gonna tackle my house and I actually do it that day, it kind of proves to yourself that you're the kind of person who is accountable, who does what they say they're going to do. And I think this is something that happens gradually. It's not like it's not something that like you just change overnight. But I noticed for myself, it was kind of these little stepping stones of proving to myself that I'm actually gonna do what I say I'm gonna do. That just makes me more motivated to do other things in my life, like work out or film a video when I say I'm gonna film a video, or just kind of do these things to not to prove to anyone else, but just to myself, that I do the things I say I'm gonna do, that I am a reliable person. And that's just something I didn't really appreciate before. You also spend less. There's nothing quite like taking a big black bin bag out of your house full of stuff that you spent your money on, that you didn't use as much as you thought you would, that maybe you regret buying. There's nothing quite like taking that bag out of your house to make you rethink your life choices. At least that was in my case, because it kind of made me change my whole perspective on things. It was just at some point I realized, why am I getting rid of this jumper that maybe cost 20 pounds? I'm not wearing it. It's just sitting in my wardrobe. I get rid of it. And then I go back to the shops and I see another jumper that's sometimes I don't even realize, but it's very similar to the one I just decluttered. And I spend another 20 pounds on that. That kind of cycle was something I had to kind of break out of, because I used to do that a lot. Just declutter some stuff and then buy some more stuff back. And a lot of the times it was stuff that was so similar to what I just decluttered. And it's just this cycle that I think, because we're on social media, because we see so many things around, because sometimes we're tempted by bargains in the shop, it can be so hard to break out of that cycle. And that's why I think doing a massive declutter really helped me. It just made me more intentional. It made me a better shopper. And it's not like I don't buy things. Obviously, I still buy things, but it just makes me kind of pause and think things through just a bit more before I make a purchase. And I think the reason why we buy so much these days is because we are pushed everywhere around us. At every corner we are pushed to buy more. And there's nothing wrong with buying a product that brings you value, but I found that when I impulse buy quickly, it's very hard to make intentional decisions. And I think that's how you end up with a lot of regrets and a lot of money wasted. You also save more money. So our goal is to pay off our mortgage early. And because we've decluttered a lot, because we've cut a lot of our unnecessary spending, it means we can save a lot more every month. And so what we did is we basically covered our emergency fund so that if anything happens, we always have that to fall back on. And that reduces a lot of your stress. And so now any extra savings go back to our mortgage. So we do overpayments on our mortgage whenever we can, which means we will be paying a lot less in interest over the years, but also hopefully we will be mortgage free a lot earlier than those like 25 years that you initially take. When you declutter, you also have a lot more energy and just more kind of room to move around. And I think sometimes we don't actually notice this, but the clutter in our home can actually be so draining on our energy, and it can make us feel a lot more unproductive and unmotivated. And it's not that you're lazy, it's just that sometimes all of that stuff can really, really drain you. And so for me, getting rid of that clutter gave me so much energy back, and it gave me kind of that mental space to work on my hobbies or to work out, to do my workouts and actually have the floor space to do it, or to work on my online business here. There's also less decision fatigue. It's been said that we make about 35,000 decisions in a day, and these are like very tiny micro decisions that we just don't even think about. But for some of them, there are more conscious decisions that kind of drain more of your energy. Things like picking your outfit, or what lipstick should I wear today, what jewelry should I wear today. All of these little decisions really add up. And so removing some of those can actually be so helpful and just make us feel more calm. And for me, that started with decluttering my clothes, because a streamlined wardrobe just changed my whole day. So when I open my wardrobe in the morning, there are clothes in there that are fit for the season, that fit my current body, not a body I had 5 years ago. And it's just a nice feeling. I do think I like decluttering as well, because it does give you a sense of control. And not in a bad way, but life can feel chaotic sometimes, and there are so many things that happen in our lives that we cannot control. But decluttering even just a drawer can give you such a quick, visible win that you can see you've accomplished, and that can give you a really good dopamine boost, and a good kind of dopamine, not the kind of crash dopamine you get from scrolling on social media. And that kind of dopamine that you get from doing something like a bit of an effortful thing, something that's very satisfying in that way, like decluttering your drawer, that can actually give you motivation to do other things in your life. I also found that we have calmer mornings just because it's easier. It's easier to not only get rest in the morning, but also to pack the kids' lunch boxes and find all of the things that they need in the morning. So getting the kids ready for school is just that tiny bit easier. I'm not saying it's not chaotic sometimes, obviously it still is, but it just makes it a tiny bit easier for me. One thing I also noticed is that you invite people over more. And I think, we are social human beings at our core. And so I love having a home that it doesn't need to look perfect all the time, but just to kind kind of make me feel comfortable to invite people over and to have my mom friends over. And I love hosting our neighbors over for a barbecue or having my mom friends over for a play date. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And I also think it's something that kept me sane for these past few years. If you've also been decluttering, can you let me know in the comments what's one thing that's changed for you, like a positive change that you've seen in your life? I would really love to hear that from you. If you're like, okay, this is great, but how do I actually get started with decluttering? Then I have a free decluttering checklist that over 50,000 people have downloaded, so you might find that helpful too. But thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one.